All right, what's up, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram? I've got a question for you, and I want to rant about it. When a buyer asks you for a discount, do you give it to them? Do you give it to them? So, an open question, and as people start joining, and welcome, Patrick, Art Storefronts, going on a little rant here about negotiation, which I think is a very, very important topic ahead of Q4 coming, which is the busy buying season. So leave me a comment. I'm curious. I want feedback. When a buyer asks you for a discount, do you give them one or no? Do you negotiate? Do you think when you get a lowball offer that you've automatically lost? Do you hate it when people negotiate with you? Do you have a plan, a game plan on what to do when people are trying to negotiate with you? Like, you're in your booth, you get a DM on Instagram, you get an email, a reply to your email, or if you're showing the art in person anywhere and you're selling it for $1,000 and they're like, hey, that's beautiful, it's just not my budget, would you take $500? What do you do in those scenarios? And my position is that negotiation is not a bad word. It's not something that undervalues your work. It's not something that you need to be scared of. Quite to the contrary, I think it's an incredible thing that you need to be prepared for. It's a signal of intent. And I want to go on a rant about this because I think it's really, really important to understand the context, okay? To understand the context of negotiation, what it looks like. I just released a new podcast episode on this. Get this stupid banner out of the way so you guys can actually see it. When a buyer asks for a discount, how to negotiate an art sale. And I just did a super deep dive on this, and I think it's a really good episode. I'm really proud of it. I think if you realize the rules, okay, if you realize the rules of negotiation, and I believe there are rules of negotiation, it is not a scenario where you need to be scared. It is not a scenario where you need to get nervous or get emotional or get upset, get pissed off about. Quite to the contrary, it is an absolute signal of intent, i.e. this person is interested in your artwork. You just need to understand basically the nuance of what art and photography sales are, and then also the rules of negotiation. So I want to briefly cover these, but I would love to hear comments if you do negotiate. I'm hearing, especially for a first-time buyer, Lori absolutely does, but for repeat buyers, she doesn't, and I can understand that strategy too. But I think if you have a plan, and in the podcast I use like this Sun Tzu quote, right? That like the battle is won before the war ever started. And the notion of it is you don't just go to war and fight a battle, okay? Until you've done all your preparation, you know exactly what you're doing, you've studied your enemy, you know where he's likely to retreat, you stack the deck in your favor, right? Then the battle just becomes a formality, basically, where you're going to win no matter what. And I feel like when you guys get someone attempting to negotiate with you, it's the same scenario. It's the exact same scenario, okay? Like you just need a plan in place. And I think if you Googled or you asked AI, hey, I suck at negotiation. Can you teach me to be a better negotiator when people are trying to lowball me on my art, when I'm selling it? You would get an MBA in negotiation, right? But my position is that when you're selling art and photography, it's not like, it's a car salesman selling a car or a realtor trying to sell a home or Thomas Crown doing a, $1.5 billion M&A, mergers and acquisitions deal. There's nuance to the art business, right? And if you've been listening to me for any period of time, you come to terms with a couple of things. One, you're going to be in the art business for life, which means for most of you, this is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years left. You are going to be an artist that is creating your art, ultimately seeking the feedback that it is good, getting comments on it, and ideally, yes, people buying it, okay? Very important to know that fact. You are playing the long game. Almost no one makes decisions, and yes, makes decisions in the context of negotiation, knowing that they're playing the long game. Okay, the long game is the whole game. Very, very important, excuse me. So you need to know that. That's the nuance of why you negotiate and how you negotiate. You also need to know that the number one metric that every single solitary art, photography, creative business needs to pay attention to is the number of new customers that you acquire per year. Okay. The reason that you need to know about that metric is the more new customers you acquire, the easier it is to get those folks to come back. Okay. It is a known fact that it is much easier to get someone that's already purchased something to come back and purchase again than it is to get someone to purchase for the first time, which is what makes the number of new customers that you acquire per year one of the most important metrics in this entire thing. Okay. So the nuance to negotiation, when someone, you have $1,000 piece and they're like, hey, that's a wonderful piece. I really like it. It really caught my eye. It's beautiful. Would you take $800 for it? Right? What do you do in that scenario? Well, there's a couple of different ways you could play it. The first way to play it is just go hard line. Nope, $1,000 is the price. The price is what the price is. I don't ever lower my prices. If you want it, you could take it at $1,000. If not, pound sand, get out of here, right? Or you negotiate. And my position is you should always negotiate. And the reason that you should always negotiate, because the most important thing that you can do in this business is acquire a new customer, okay? The data is pretty clear that if you go hardline, no, my price is $1,000. That's what it is. I'm not coming off of it. Take it or leave it. You will make more money. You will make more money doing that than if you negotiate. The data is pretty clear on that. The data is also clear that you are going to acquire way more new customers in your business if you negotiate on the price. So you should negotiate, okay? The key to negotiation is understanding the nuances of the art business. You're going to be in this business for life. The most important thing to do is acquire a new customer. The maths say it is much easier to get a new customer to come back and purchase again than it is the first time. And ultimately, art and photography is a collector-driven business, okay? It is a collector-driven business. It is sustained by folks that you sell to again and again and again, a collector, right? Weiland defines a collector as someone that purchases an upwards of 7+ pieces of art from him over the course of a lifetime. So that's a data point to store away. So the key to negotiation is three things only. And my camera's doing a little portrait mode, so I never know where I'm looking. Anyway, three things key to negotiation, okay? Before you even contact a person, before you get them on the phone, before you are in a position where you're showing your art, rule number one is know what your floor is, okay? Know what your floor is. Know what the lowest price that you're willing to take for a particular item, okay? Have a personal come to Jesus, have a chat with yourself and say, okay, I know what my floor is. I'm selling this thing for $1,000, but there's no way I'll let it go for less than 600, okay? Rule number one, know what your floor is on your pieces. That's really, really important. Rule number two, okay? It's very important to have a lineup, okay? It is very important to have a lineup prior to negotiation. What do I mean by a lineup? You can't just be selling originals at $1,000, okay? Otherwise, it makes negotiation way harder. When you have a lineup, i.e., items that you're selling from in the $0 to $100 range, the $100 to $1,000 range, and the $1,000 plus range, and you can show that, negotiation becomes significantly easier to do. And the reason for that is this potential buyer who sees your original for $1,000 knows why it's $1,000. And the reason they know why it's $1,000, originals here at $1,000, big prints, 800, 900, 700, medium-sized prints, 500, 600, 500, 400, smaller prints, 300, 200, 100, merchandise under $100. I get it. That's why that thing's $1,000. If your potential buyer has seen your lineup, it eliminates the lowball offers. It eliminates the people that are just, being dicks, right? And just trying to beat you up and offer some sort of nonsensical price. Once you have that, there is the third and final secret to negotiation. Okay. It's taken me years and years and years to learn this and refine this and go through this, but I find that it absolutely just works just fantastically. Okay. The secret to negotiation is actually just a mathematical formula. And let's go back to the real world example that I was using. You have a piece on sale for $1,000. Okay. I come up to you and I'm like, Dwayne, I really like that piece. It's beautiful. It speaks to me. I know you're selling it for $1,000, but that's a bit out of my budget. Would you take 800? Okay. Would you take 800? What do you say? What does Dwayne say in that scenario? And what you say, the secret to negotiation, the mathematical formula is don't ever come down on price without getting something in return. Don't ever come down on price without getting something in return. Literally the secret to negotiation. Let me stick with the real world example, then I'll tell you the mathematical formula. I tell Dwayne, I love this piece at $1,000. It's beautiful, but it's out of my budget. Would you take $800 for it? What Dwayne does not want to do is say, yes, I'll take the $800. Don't ever do that. What Dwayne does want to do is ask me a question. Okay. And there's a number of different questions that you can ask in this scenario to get something without dropping in price. But let's do the easy ones. What Dwayne can ask me is okay, Patrick, I don't normally discount my work, but let me ask you this. How are you going to pay? And I'm like, well, if you give me a discount, how do you want me to pay? And Dwayne can go, tell you what, if you take cash, that saves me a bunch of headache on the paperwork. Cash is king. If you take cash, I'll give it to you for $800. And I go, sold. Here's the $800. Thank you so much. Okay. In there is a mathematical equation. Dwayne is selling a piece for $1,000. That is X in this equation. Okay. I come in and offer 800. That is Y. Your job as the artist is to get Z. And Z in the example that I just used is, are you going to pay cash? That's Z. You're selling the thing for X. Buyer offers you Y, you get Z. That's the mathematical equation. It's that simple. And Z can be just about anything. It can be, well, I'll tell you what, it's way easier for my accounting if you pay by credit card. Can you pay by credit card? And I go, yeah, I'll pay by credit card. Boom, that's Z in the equation, right? And what about, Dwayne says to me, I don't normally discount my work, but are you going to take the work home today? Because if you take it home today, I'll give you that deal. I don't want to load it back up in my car and drive it home. And I go, yeah, I'll take the work today. Boom, that's Z in the equation. There are a myriad of things that you can do. Okay. But if you just remember that simple formula, do not ever come down on price unless you get something in return. And let's talk about, I just explained cash versus credit card. I just explained, will you take it today? You could use, yeah, I will, but you have to pay for shipping. You could say, I'll come down on price, but only if when you get the piece home and you hang it up, you take a photo next to it, send it to me, and allow me to post that on my Instagram. Allow me to use it in my email. I don't normally discount my work, Patrick, but I'll tell you what, I'm trying to build up my Google reviews for my art business. If you commit to leaving me a Google review, I'll be willing to come down on price, right? Like it can be anything like that, but you always get something in return, and that satisfies some sort of primal human psychology of negotiation. You have the price. The buyer asks for a lower price. You get something in return. That's it. That's X, Y, and Z. right? It's just a simple mathematical formula. And I have done this throughout my career, buying and selling cars, buying and selling boats, motorcycles, furniture, selling stuff on Craigslist, selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace, renting apartments or renting homes to tenants. Like, it just works fantastically. And as long as you get something back without dropping price, it ends up becoming a solid deal. So that's the secret to negotiation. That's literally it. Know what your floor is. Have a lineup, okay, so that people understand why things cost, why they cost. Like, if you're just selling an original for $5,000 and you don't have anything else on offer, I don't understand how you came up with this magical number of $5,000. Okay, so it's very important to have the lineup. And the third is just don't ever come down on price without getting something in return. That's the whole thing. There's just 3 tenets to it. And when you know that, and when you start practicing that, you're going to end up acquiring way more new customers. And the more new customers you acquire, the faster your art business is going to grow. Those are the maths. Those are the maths, and they just work. Let alone, my position is that more art and photography, especially when it's sold in person, especially when it's sold at galleries, especially when it's sold at fairs and shows, is sold at a discount than is sold for full price. Less so on e-commerce because there's not a conversation. But when a conversation happens, more art is sold at a discount, okay, than at full price. And let me just tell you, the more expensive the piece, the more negotiation there is. That's just how the world works. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just how the world works. And so when you prepare, okay, and you follow that whole system of negotiation, you will win. You'll win. You're going to win the battle before it's ever even started. If you want the deep dive on this, go listen to this podcast. It's on everywhere there's podcasts. It's called the Art Marketing Podcast. It looks like this. I don't know whose idea it was to come up with these jazzy pink, purple and pink colors, but these are our colors anyway. When a buyer asks for a discount, how to negotiate an art sale, highly recommend that you go listen to that for the deep dive, which is really, really good. If you want to join me and get your art questions answered in person, face-to-face, with your resident blowhard, me, you can do that. There's a link at the bottom of the Instagram thing that says an art business webinar. I've gone back to running these guys 3 days a week, totally free to come. Little presentation where I go through a rant about things and then I answer any and all questions. So fun thing to do. You can, if you're on Instagram, click that link. If you're watching on Facebook, you can just leave a comment with the word web, W-E-B, or you can do that on Instagram too. You can just tap web and then you don't have to click anything. And I'd love to invite you to that webinar. I'll send you a free Zoom link and you can come join me and we can talk about negotiation or whatever else you like. But that is what you do when a buyer asks for a discount. And if you do it, your business is going to acquire a significantly higher amount of new customers. And that's the secret to this business. Thanks for watching the live, guys, and have a great rest of your day.